Hello. How is everyone today? Are you? Hello, hello. How are you? How was your day? So, I am not going to be long. I've been trying to make these shorter and shorter because I know attention spans aren't very long. So, I'm going to get going. So, Rome was not built in a day, but it can be destroyed in one. And so when I thought about this, I thought about various people, various experiences. I thought of my own experiences. And if we're all honest, we can look at our lives and say that, you know, one decision we made had a trickle down effect, positive or negative. But, we're talking about the negative, of course, with this. And so the first group I thought about was Adam and Eve. And we know that in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6 and 7, they eat the apple. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying apple. Lord, they eat the fruit. It is not an apple. It doesn't say an apple. Oh, they eat the fruit. And when they eat the fruit, their eyes become open. They felt ashamed and they want to cover themselves. And then later on in still in chapter 3, verses 8 through 13, now there's some consequences that come, right? So for their disobedience, they were banished from the garden. We're going to discuss that a little bit further in just a little while. Sin was introduced to the world, and we still are affected by that today. And then the ground was cursed, so Adam had to till it, by the sweat of his brow. And then Eve is now going to have pain in childbirth. She's going to have a menstrual cycle. All these things occurred. And then there was also the curse that happened to the serpent, but we're not concerning ourselves with that right now. There's another point I want to make in this curse. It says she will have a desire to rule over her husband, will control her husband, and he will rule over her. So that's also part of the curse. Then a lot of times we miss this in Genesis chapter 3, verse 22. We weren't supposed to die. Like, we were supposed to live forever. And I'm going to read verse 22 and 23. It says, then God said, let the human beings I got on glasses too. Let me make this bigger, Lord. That's how you know when you're getting old, you got to make stuff bigger and put glasses on. Look, the human beings have become like us, knowing both good and evil. What if they reach out and take the fruit from the tree of life and eat it? Then they will live forever. So if they had ate the fruit one more time, they would live forever. So in 23 it says, so the Lord God banished them from the Garden of Eden and sent Adam out to cultivate the ground from which he had been made. So due to one act, their whole life had been destroyed the way they knew it. From curiosity truly killed the cat. And, the reality with this is Eve didn't have to hunt him down, because it says she handed it to him. So he had to be in arm's reach for her to hand him this piece of fruit that he ate as well. So they're wrong. It didn't take a day, because God had went through the cycle of, we already know the 7 days, 6th day and the 7th day he rested. So what it took him to build, one act destroyed it all. And then I wanted to talk about also Sarah, Abraham, and Hagar. So with Sarah, Abraham, and Hagar, as we know, that's over in Genesis 14. And so in their case, I want to kind of stick to chapter 16. And in chapter 16, verses 1 through 4, so Sarah has an idea that, you know what, I'm too old. I heard what God said, but I'm too old. I'm not going to have a child. So since I'm not going to have this child, what I'm going to do is give you my maidservant Hagar. Adam said, okay, whatever. Bring her in. They do what they do. She becomes pregnant. Then now Sarah and Hagar have beef because you pregnant. I'm not. I'm feeling some kind of way. And I'm probably making you feel some kind of way too, because I can give your husband something you can't. And I'm the maid servant, right? So decision was made. Child is now born. Now we're going to go over a little bit down in chapter. I'm sorry, it's still chapter 16, verse 12. And God tells Hagar, because she's crying, right? So Sarah has treated her bowl. She's crying. And it says, let me go up to verse 11. It says, and the angel said, you are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You will name him Ishmael, which means God hears. For the Lord has heard your cry of distress. This son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as a wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live open hostility amongst all his relatives. So here's the thing. One decision we still seeing today, because either you're through the lineage of Isaac or you're through the lineage of Ishmael. And in Jewish culture, the firstborn gets everything. So they're fighting over a birthright because of one decision. So you took everything that God had created and the plan God had, and one decision destroyed your Rome, right? And let me back up. I came up with this because I was talking to a friend girl of mine, and she was saying, well, Monique, Rome wasn't built in a day. And I said, but it can be destroyed in one. And I said, oh, I'm going to make that a topic to talk about. This is how the topic came up. But in these two instances with Adam and Eve, they decided to eat the fruit. Sin was brought into the world, and we're still suffering today, And then now you have Sarai, Abram, and Hagar, and they whole situation, and we still see it today. It's still going on today, fighting for both birthright. Just think, we fight over, if grandma left us some silver, we fighting one another over that. So you got to imagine what they fighting over. So like I said, I wasn't going to keep you long today. I just want us to really be cognitive of when we make decisions, what's the aftermath going to happen? Because decisions I make today will affect my daughter. Decisions you make will affect those that come after you, positively or negative. And so We got to be, even, something as simple as, oh, if I eat this Twinkie, yeah, it tastes good today, but what's going to be the aftermath of that? Like, y'all pray for me, I got an addiction to popcorn. I can eat popcorn like 20 going north. Then I get mad when I get on the scale because popcorn don't do well in my system and in the scale. But you're making a decision, and it's like all this hard work that you've been doing to try to lose weight. Then you go and want to eat this popcorn, or you want to go eat this cake, or you want to go do these things. And so our spirituality is no different. We can't be working, to improve. Like I yesterday on the radio, I said, there are some people in my life that if I have to change who I am to be around you, then it's time for me to remove you. And it's not that we're beefed out. It's just that I don't like who I have to become in order to be around you. And if we got a quote unquote match energy, I did a chat about that a while ago. We're not matching energy. We matching demons. If I got to match your demon, child, just goodbye. I can't destroy my Rome because of one decision, and you lose a level of influence. So that's it, y'all. Hopefully these two, and it's others, we could talk about David and Bathsheba. Like, it's a ton of people. One decision, since I brought up David and Bathsheba, as we know, David and Bathsheba, he sees her, he like, oh, I'm going to get that. They end up doing their thing. She gets pregnant. And to try to cover it up, he says, oh, I'm going to bring your husband off the front line, out from fighting, bring him in, got him drunk, and was like going to be in there with your wife because he was going to try to make it like that was his baby. Didn't work, so he ended up killing the husband. Bathsheba has the baby, and the baby dies, And so every consequence, we think stuff it goes unpunished, but sometimes it doesn't come back the way in which we see it, or the way in which we've done it. So just be cognitive that what you are building, what you're trying to do, that one action doesn't destroy it. Because it's so easy, just like with credit. I was telling somebody, I was like, credit is so hard to build, right? But miss one payment and see how quickly one payment can drop your credit. You're like, it took me 6 months to build this up, this 100 points. And one missed payment can drop your credit 100 points just that fast, even though it took you 6 months to get it there. 6 months of consecutive payments to boost it up there. So just be cognitive that you don't allow one decision to destroy your entire Rome. I appreciate you guys for joining in. This is Monique, and this was just a little something from my heart to your ears. I'll talk to you later. Lord's will. Bye. See you next week.